Have you ever gone bowling before? Even if you haven't, you've probably seen people go bowling on TV or in the movies. You might have seen people bowl in between their legs or throwing their arm upside down like this. But did you know that there's a correct way to throw the bowling ball down the lane? Bowling traces back to 3200 BC in Egypt when they found a stone bowling ball and stones that look like pins in a child's casket. From Egypt, the Dutch, German, and English discovered bowling, and they all had different variations of it that they brought here to the United States. Now, I am going to demonstrate the correct way to throw a bowling ball down the lane. This depends on the type of ball you pick, your grip, your approach, and your release of the ball down the lane. So grab your bowling ball and let's get started. When you pick a bowling ball, you don't want to pick a ball that's too light or too heavy because you could hurt yourself. Typically, a bowling ball needs to be about 10% of your weight. The heaviest bowling ball is about 16 pounds. I usually throw a 12-pound ball, but today I'm using plastic as a demonstration. A normal bowling ball has about 3 holes on it. You might see some people bowl with no holes on the ball, but that's just a different variation of bowling. There is a hole for your thumb, your middle finger, and your ring finger. Each finger needs to go into the correct hole on a ball. This will help you have the correct grip and help you have control of your ball when you throw it down the lane. Your index finger and your pinky finger need to lay flat on the ball, just like this. This is the typical way most people throw a bowling ball down the lane. Now that we've talked about picking a bowling ball and how your grip should look, we need to talk about approach. Approach is just how you walk down the lane before you throw the bowling ball. To do that, first you need to find your mark on the lane. On lanes, you'll typically see about 10 to 20 dots on the floor. Everybody's mark is different, but if you want to throw a hook ball or a backup ball, that will change your mark. Once you find your mark, you want to stand with your feet about 4 inches apart and even with each other. A typical approach has about 3 steps. Depending on if you're right or left-handed, will decide which foot goes first. I'm right-handed, so my right foot will lead first. When you take your first step with your right foot, the ball will extend behind you. Then, when you take your second step with your left foot, your ball should be even with your leg next to your side. Your last step, you will slide with your right foot and have the ball extended out in front of you, ready for a release. Now I'm going to show you one more time. Again, your feet need to be 4 inches apart and even with each other. You will start with your dominant foot, which is my right foot. Your first step, the ball will extend behind you. With your second step, your arm needs to be even with your back leg. And then with your last step, you will slide, your arm will be in front, and you will release the ball. Now, for our last step, we need to talk about the release. Depending on what kind of release you do will depend on what pins you knock down. There are 2 different kinds of releases. There's the backup ball, and then there's the hook ball. Let's talk about our backup ball first. A backup ball is when your hand is flat like this. Backup balls are good for picking up spares because when you throw a backup ball, your ball will go straight down the lane and won't turn at all. So if you stand in the middle of a lane and throw a backup ball, your ball will hit the head pin, which is the first pin in front, but then you will not get any of your corner pins. Backup balls are not good for getting a strike, so I don't recommend that for your first ball. The other kind of release is a hook ball. A hook ball is when your arm is turned ever so slightly to the left. This will cause your ball to spin down the lane and still hit the head pin, but over to the right. With that spin, you'll hit down all of those corner pins. That's why most knowledgeable bowlers and pro bowlers throw a hook ball, because they get the best strikes. Now, in conclusion, bowling is a fun activity for friends and family. If you're out there just to have fun, this video might not be for you. But if you want to improve your bowling, remember these 3 steps. Pick the correct ball. Don't get one that's too light or too heavy. Make sure your thumb, middle finger, and index finger are in the correct holes, and your middle finger and pinky lay flat on top of the ball. Next, find your mark on your lane. You want it to be 4 inches apart and your feet even with each other. You're going to take your 3 steps. One with your right, arm extended. Second with your left, arm even with your leg. And right foot slide. Decide what release you need, whether it be a backup ball or a hook ball. If you remember these 3 steps, you're sure to knock down all the pins.